Hey there, I'm Douglas from Draftbit. In this video, we're diving into the table component. This is a powerful tool for displaying tabular data inside your application. I'll show you how to set up a table, bind it to a data source, and create both rows for your data and a header with column labels. By the end of this video, you'll have a fully functioning table, complete with styled headers and dynamic rows. Let's get started. To add the table, head over to the left side. In the component picker, click Add, then search for Table. And inside our component tree, once the table has been added, you'll notice that it came with a table row and a table cell. These are its default child components. The table row represents a horizontal row in the table, while the cells holds individual pieces of data. The table component requires an array of data as its source. Each object in the array represents one row of the table, and the keys in the object represents its columns. The table will loop through the data and dynamically create rows and cells based on the structure of your dataset. So I've gone ahead in my variables and I've created a test variable. This is of type object array, and you can see this is an object array. So it has an age, name, row, and this is the data that the table expects. And let's close this. So we'll head over to the table, then we'll head over to data, and we're going to link the variable. Now, inside of our table cell, if we add a text, you're going to notice that we get 3 pieces of text. Why are we getting 3 pieces of text? Because already the table is looping through our data. So our data has 3 objects. So there's 1, 2, 3. That's why on the table we get 3 pieces of text, because already it's looping through and it's returning 3 instances of that object. Yeah, but mostly in real world applications, we're going to be fetching our data dynamically from a backend and then displaying the data in our table. So what we need to do, we need to come here, click add, then we're going to add the fetch component. And what this does, it fetches data from a backend endpoint. So I've gone ahead and I've created a backend endpoint that's going to bring in some test users. Then I'm going to display these users in the table. So over here, it's called example. Then the endpoint is called get users. It's going to grab me some users and they look like this. So we're going to be having full name, last name. So basically just some user information. And what the fetch component does, any of its children are going to be able to access this data. So what I need to do, I need to grab the table, then I need to put it inside the fetch component. So now when I go to the table and then I go to data, instead of this variable, I now have access to this thing called the top level response. That's the data that's coming from the backend. And notice we now have 10 pieces of text. Why? Because if we go back to the fetch, we'll notice that we have 10 users that we were able to get. So now we're accessing the users. And to even show you, we can come here on data, then on text, I'll create a variable. Then I'll call it name. And then I'm going to assign it to full name. And you notice Draftbit is able to auto-suggest us like keys in our data. And right now we can see the names. Okay, so now let's go ahead and build our table. So I'm thinking here, instead of putting the full name, I'm thinking let's just put the first name. So let me duplicate the cell. That's going to add a new column. And in this new column, instead of name, I'm going to show the phone number. Okay, then we have phone number here. Then I'm going to duplicate this again to add a third column. Then in the third column, I'm going to show the last name. So this is how you build your table. So now we have first name, phone number, then last name. A table is incomplete without headers to label each column. To create a header, let's duplicate the existing row. Then this is going to place another row above this row that we already have. So we're going to come on row, then we're going to duplicate this row. But then notice it's going to duplicate the data. So what we need to do, we need to come here to text, and then we need to name the columns. The first column is going to be first name. The second column is going to be contact. Then the last one will be last name. Then we need to go to the table row, and then we need to tell Draftbit that this is a header. And once you do that, everything is going to fix itself. So now we have first name, contact, and last name. Now that everything is looking okay, let's dive into customizing the appearance of our table. Select the table, then navigate to the Style tab. First, we have border color. And for border color to work, we need a border width. So we're going to select a border width. For now, we can just say 2. And now we can see our border. And we can kind of play around with the color. So we can add primary, and you're going to see we now have a border color. Then up next, we have border style. So it can be solid, dotted, or dashed. So dotted is just going to be a bunch of dots, as you can see. Then dashed is just going to be dashes that are going to make up the border. Then solid is what we had by default. Then up next, we have cell horizontal padding. So this adds spacing within each cell, ensuring that the content doesn't touch the edges. So let's exaggerate this, then make it 20. And now you see that we have more padding inside these cells. Then we have cell vertical padding. So horizontal padding was padding on the left and right. Vertical is going to be up and down. So if we put 20, we're going to get padding up and down, as you can see. Then let's just reset all of these back to normal. Then up next, we have draw bottom border, draw end border, draw start border, draw top border. So toggling this is going to either remove or bring back the border. So depending on the situation, you might want a table where you don't have the upper border and you just have the lower border. So these are ways of styling these borders, toggling them to either be present or be absent. Then up next, let's look at the table row. So table row is going to have the same kind of styles as the table. So these are the same styles, but now the difference is you can now customize the individual row. When we're on the table level, we're kind of setting the styles for the entire table. Now it's just the styles for the table row. And if you go deeper on table cell, you notice the styles are not changing, but what's changing is the target. So now we're targeting the individual cell. For example, if I come here on border color, then I make it red. Notice that this first one, which says first name, now has a red border. Then if I go back to table row, then I give it a border color of red. Now this first row now has a border color of red. So these styles are the same, but you're just targeting different parts of the table. And that's it for the table. We've covered how to set it up, how to style the table, and how to add data to the table from a variable from a backend using the fetch component. And by following these steps, you can easily display tabular data inside your application. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips and tutorials on building with Draftbit. And if you have any questions and need further assistance, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you for watching and happy building with Draftbit.